What if the reason you keep starting over is not because you are weak, but because something in you secretly doesn't believe you deserve to stay consistent? And if I'm right, then your biggest problem is not your discipline. It's your identity. There is a pattern you know too well. You wake up one morning and something clicks. You feel motivated, clear, determined. You say things like, "This time, I'm serious. This is my new beginning. I'm going to change my life." And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, you do. You pray more. You eat better. You study harder. You stop the habits you promised yourself you'd quit. And then slowly, quietly, something shifts. Not all at once, but little by little, you start slipping back. One missed day becomes two. One compromise becomes a pattern. One "I'll start again tomorrow" becomes a lifestyle. And then you find yourself back where you started. Not because you didn't try, but because you've been here before, too many times. And now something inside you doesn't even feel surprised anymore, just tired. If you've ever felt like you are trapped in cycles you can't explain, you're not alone. Maybe it's starting your spiritual life strong, then fading away. Trying to lose weight, then going back to old habits. Wanting discipline, then losing control after a few days. Promising God "this time I'll change," then repeating the same mistakes. And what hurts most is not even the failure. It's the repetition. Because failure hurts once. But cycles make you question yourself. You start asking, "Why am I like this? Is something wrong with me? Why do I always go back?" And slowly, without noticing, you begin to build an identity around inconsistency. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is growing, and start seeing yourself as someone who always falls. But here is something you need to hear clearly. You are not addicted to failure. You are attached to patterns you haven't understood yet. Let's go deeper. Most people think discipline is the problem. But discipline is only the surface. Underneath discipline is something deeper. Beliefs, emotional triggers, comfort zones, identity scripts, spiritual alignment. Let's break it down simply. Every time you try to change your life, you are not just fighting habits. You are fighting identity. Because your mind has a silent script running in the background. I am someone who starts but doesn't finish. I always fall back. I cannot stay consistent. And even if you don't say it out loud, your behavior often agrees with it. This is why motivation doesn't last. Motivation can push you, but identity pulls you back. And what pulls you back is not laziness. It's familiarity. Your old life feels emotionally familiar. Even if it's painful, it's predictable. And the human mind often chooses predictable pain over unfamiliar growth. That's why you return. Not because you want to fail, but because part of you feels safer there. Ask yourself honestly, what feels more familiar to me right now? Growth or repetition? And what do I secretly expect of myself when no one is watching? Now listen carefully. You probably didn't realize this, but your cycle is not random. It follows a pattern of conviction, action, pressure, discomfort, escape, guilt, and restart. And then it repeats. But here's the truth most people miss. The breaking point is not escape. It is step pressure and discomfort. Because that is where your old self starts screaming. This is too hard. This is not who you are. You can relax just this once. And if you listen long enough, you return. Let me show you something powerful. There is a verse in the Bible that reveals this struggle deeply. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Matthew 26 verse 41. Even Jesus said this to his disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane. They had good intentions. They had desire. They had conviction. But when pressure came, they struggled to stay aligned. So if you have ever felt torn between what you want and what you do, you are not strange. You are human. But here is where transformation begins. Not in stronger motivation, but in deeper awareness. Let's go deeper emotionally, because sometimes this is not just about habits. Sometimes it is about pain. There are people who fall back into cycles not because they are lazy, but because consistency feels unsafe. Why? Because consistency forces you to face yourself. And many people are avoiding disappointment, fear of failure, fear of success, shame from past mistakes and emotional fatigue. So instead of staying in growth, they return to distraction. Because distraction doesn't ask questions. But growth does. Growth asks, why are you really doing this? Who are you becoming? Can you stay here when it gets uncomfortable? And that is where many people break. Not because they cannot change, but because they were never taught how to stay in the middle. The middle is the hardest place. Not the beginning, not the end, but the middle. Where nothing feels exciting anymore, and nothing feels rewarding yet. Just silence and effort. Ask yourself this question: what do I usually do when things stop feeling exciting? Do I continue? Or do I escape? Now listen closely, because this is where everything shifts. You don't need a new personality. You need a new agreement with yourself. Right now, you may have an agreement like this: if it gets hard, I can quit. If I fail once, I restart everything. If I lose motivation, I stop. But discipline is not built on motivation. It is built on agreement. Let me show you something powerful. In Genesis 37, Joseph had a dream. But after the dream came the pit. Then slavery. Then prison. Nothing about his situation matched the promise. But here is what changed everything. He did not let his environment rewrite his identity. Even in delay, he remained consistent. Even in pain, he remained aligned. And eventually, the cycle broke. Not because life got easier, but because he stopped becoming someone who quits mid-process. Your life will not change when everything becomes easier. It will change when you stop negotiating with discomfort. So how do you break the cycle? Not with pressure, not with shame, but with awareness plus repetition. You don't need to restart your life. You need to continue it differently. Here is what changes everything. Instead of asking, why do I keep failing? Start asking, what version of me shows up right before I quit? That moment is your real battlefield. Not the beginning, not the goal, but the moment you feel like stopping. Because that is where identity is either strengthened or rewritten. Next time you feel like quitting, pause and ask, am I tired or am I triggered? Am I weak or am I uncomfortable? Am I failing or am I resisting growth? Most of the time, it is not failure. It is resistance. So let's bring this to stillness. You don't actually need to become a completely different person overnight. You just need to stop abandoning yourself at the first sign of discomfort. Because every time you start again and fall back, it's not just about habits, it's about trust. Can you trust yourself to stay? Not when it's easy, but when it's boring, when it's quiet, when it's slow. That is where real change lives. Not in big emotional moments, but in ordinary consistency. Final Bible reflection. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6 verse 9. Not if we feel like it. Not if it is easy. But if we do not give up. So if you are in that cycle right now, starting, falling, restarting, hear this clearly. You are not stuck. You are in a pattern that can be understood. And anything that can be understood can be changed. Not all at once, but step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice. This is Selah. Not a place of perfection, but a place of reflection. And in reflection, you find direction.